Gentlemen, this is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks on Wednesday, the 6th day of November, year of our Lord 2019. Welcome to the John Moore Show. We begin our show with something that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez probably thinks is racist, but that's too bad. We begin our shows with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Preparative of the day, I want to encourage all of you to inventory your library. Books have a way of walking away. Make sure that all the gaps are filled in and that you've got all the books you need and all the different topics that you need to cover. Specifically, just real briefly, if you're interested in wild edibles and herbs, you need books for your area, your specific area you live in, that have full color photographs. Don't make the mistake of going cheap and getting black and white photographs or black and white drawings. That will be a massive mistake. Before we get any further, I want to shout out to Elizabeth in New York. Thank you, my dear. You figured out what the audio issue was here. It turned out to be something simple. The fan on an electric heater, and we took care of that, and we got our audio quality back. We have patiently waiting in the green room, my friend, Professor James McCanney. Professor McCanney did teach astrophysics at Cornell University. He taught mathematics at Cornell University. He's a advanced amateur archaeologist to the point where he consults with governments about very archaeological matters. Weekly radio talk show host, author of 11 books. Good morning, Jim.
Morning, John. How are we doing?
Well, couldn't do any better. How about yourself, sir?
Yeah, the same. Just moving along in this insane world.
It is. We were talking privately a moment ago about flu shots. Something I need to do is to get copies of the inserts, the package inserts, so I can make photocopies and hand them out to people. Anybody who can read, and if they do read the insert that comes with the flu vaccine, they would probably decline to get it. What do you think, sir?
Well, it doesn't make any sense because they cannot predict the virus that's going to occur in the coming year. So it's based off of a year or 2 years ago, a viral strain of the flu. And so the flu shot is for something that occurred 2 years ago, nothing that has anything to do with anything that's going to happen this year.
Well, so what you're saying is true, but in addition, the package insert will have warnings on it and give you the contents of what's in that vaccine, including heavy metals that maybe include aluminum and mercury.
Right.
And reading the package insert is an education if people will actually do it. It's a tiny print typically, but people can't accuse you of being a conspiracy theorist because this is printed by the manufacturer. It is from the people that made the vaccine. And just reading it should be enough of an education for most people to decline any and all vaccines for any reason because they all have dangerous, toxic substances, including heavy metals. Jim, moving on from there, we have an election one day, less than a year.
John, I had a quick comment about the vaccine thing.
Please, go ahead.
Doing some research recently, and I just happened to follow upon this one. There's a name, when you and I grew up, there was no such thing. It's called sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS,
right,
where kids just die, spontaneously. And now it's a common medical term, and it sounds rather interesting because the medical industry can't seem to define what SIDS is. However, 65% of the kids, little babies that die, had within the last 2 weeks the tetanus diphtheria shot for kids, and some of them die within hours. And the longest the kids survive is about 2 weeks. So 65% of these so-called SIDS cases are immediately after getting the tetanus diphtheria shot for babies.
Right. Well, We managed to have a pretty healthy population prior to these vaccines. And uh, something I like to mention also, I don't want to, we can spend as much time on this as we like, but within the Amish community, uh, no children have autism, none whatsoever, except those unfortunate children who did get vaccines. Uh, so in many investigations, Jim, you look at two things: what's the same and what's different. Now, Amish tend to come from their ethnic heritage is Northern Europe, Germany. In fact, they speak German at home. Almost all Amish are bilingual, speaking German at home among themselves and English when they deal with us. But by the way, Jim, they call us the English, if in case you don't know it. But so what's the same? They're Caucasian. They live in the same area that we live in. They consume typically healthy food that doesn't have preservatives, additives, and no GMO. And very few of them get vaccines. And I was in an Amish community for a social event about 4 weeks ago and interacted with several Amish families. And they have this healthy glow about them that most Americans don't have. There's some.
That's right. That's right.
But most don't. And watching an Amish construction crew, it's a hoot. These men working on a job site, their demeanor and their activity is noticeably faster than regular American construction workers. I mean, it's not a slight difference; it's a massive difference in the way these men move about a construction job site, picking up tools, using tools, picking up material, moving material. It's a noticeable, dramatic difference in the level of activity that these men have compared to regular American construction crews. If you've ever seen that, you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I understand too. One time I stopped and two little Amish girls were selling strawberries, but it was like you say, they just have this glow about them. And so I proceeded down to the community and talked to them about my books. And so I sent them my print books. They would not take anything electronic.
Well, of course not.
And as I went there, in the house they were conducting school. So anyway, that's a interesting visit in itself.
It is. I
keeping the misinformation, just oceans of misinformation that are just slammed down our kids' throats in public school. It's and this I want to mention too that right now I'm in the middle of my education course on my paid cast. This is not an advertisement, but this puts a huge burden on parents who, through their real estate taxes, pay for public school, but can't send their kids there because it's so tainted.
It's a shame. It's a shame. I was thinking the other day, I want you to consider the following, Jim. In Washington, D.C., there, not far from the White House, we have the National Archives where you can walk in, and I believe there were 17 or 18 original copies of the Declaration of Independence. One of those is there in the National Archives, protected by very thick glass in a vault that would be taken underground to protect it from any kind of terrorist attack. Jim, what if tomorrow morning there was a sign posted at the front door: no Americans under age 40 are permitted inside to read the Declaration of Independence? Would that cause outrage? Would it be a matter of national concern if that sign was posted?
Well, absolutely.
Okay. Well, effectively, that's what's happened, because many Americans under age 40 and almost all under age 30 can no longer read cursive writing. Which means if they walk into the National Archives today, they can't read the Declaration of Independence, because if you're not taught to write in cursive, conversely, you cannot read cursive either. They may as well be looking at Egyptian hieroglyphics as look at the Declaration of Independence. That's where we are, Jim.
Oh, it's cool.
How tragic. How tragic. How absolutely
School is
tragic.
a Yeah, school is an absolute disaster. If you look at, here's a good example. When Obama canceled or made credit cards, they said that they could not go up by more than 5% or 0.5% per month. And so all the credit card companies, this was December 2010, I think, raised all the rates to the maximum the day before that was supposed to go into effect. So that was one of the gems of Obama. But the reason they did that is because kids don't understand how credit cards work. So you get out of a public education, and the most commonly used thing by people on the planet is a credit card, and they don't understand how compound interest works.
It's the 11th wonder of the world. Compound interest is the 11th wonder of the world. And if you understand how it works and it can work to your advantage, you're in real good shape. If you don't, it will take advantage of you the rest of your life.
Right. Yep. And so anyway, that's just one of the major failures. Kids don't know how to have a bank account,
Well,
balance it.
funny, Jim, I was in my bank the other day. The bank has said to change all their forms because people under 30 years old no longer have a signature.
Wow.
They serve in all bank forms for what 200 years to conduct business. There would be a place, a block at the bottom of the bank form, wherever it might be, for your signature. Well, they've had to do away with it since young people no longer have a signature.
They don't have an identity. Yeah, and that's by the way in science. When Carl Sagan set the direction for all of science with his Cosmos series, the story he told was that you're just a little bit smarter monkey than the ones out there in the jungle. You don't have a spirit. You just evolved from a monkey, and that's it. So this is what's being pounded down kids' throats, the ones that go to public school.
Well, if you believe that, and they do, it's a lot easier to destroy human life before it's born. And it's a tragic, tragic situation. These public schools, uh, people are just taking their children out. Homeschooling is becoming more popular. It needs to become more popular. These public schools need to be marginalized to the point where they're actually closing their doors, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. They're absolutely worthless. And there again, if it wasn't for forced payment of these schools through taxation, they wouldn't exist. They're like three-blade wind turbines and solar panels. They wouldn't exist if they were not subsidized by the government.
Well, another thing that's happened the last 40 years or so are these massive consolidations where high schools have 4,000 plus students. You're just lost. And they try to have a principal, for example, for each grade. For each grade, the ninth grade has its own principal and so forth. You're still in such a massive infrastructure of an institution that you can't possibly know your classmates in your own class, let alone students from a class above or a class below. I was very blessed that I went to a high school that had a graduating class of 100 students. I knew everybody, some better than others, but I knew every student in my class to at least a little bit. That's not possible in these big schools where you're lost among all these thousands of students. And the things that take place in a small high school, such as the football team, the competition to get on a football team when you're competing against 2,000, well, actually it'd be 1,000 boys, 500 seniors and 500 juniors. You're just, unless you're a superstar, you're not going to get on the team. It's simply not going to happen. And if you do, you're probably not going to play because of the competition. The idea of football is to take weak city boys and turn them into strong young men. That's the purpose of football, not to have fun, not to entertain people, but to take weak city boys and turn them into strong young men.
Also,
And
to teach them the team environment and that they're not the most important thing. It's the team and how to support the team. There's all kinds of other factors there, but yes,
absolutely,
it's
absolutely.
physical conditioning, discipline. That's something a lot of kids lack is discipline. If you say something to a kid, it's like, how could you say something to little Johnny? It was like, I'm just telling them to, you know, discipline is something you learn. It's not about you. It's not about your feelings. It's about making you better so the team is better. And if you understand that, that's what the point of it's not criticism, it's helping you.
Right, right. And a good football coach understands human behavior. He understands the needs of a young man for discipline, and they meet those needs. A good football coach can change a man's life.
Yeah, John, while we're talking about this, I coached kids football as a volunteer one time, and I have three professional football players that came out of my little team.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and
That's
the other kids were good, and they in their first year in this league, they wiped the field with everybody. The teams that were the very best, they cleaned their clocks because I had them in really good condition, and they could get to the fourth quarter and just keep going. And there was some real talent there, but three of them ended up in pro.
well, that's quite an accomplishment there, Jim.
Yeah,
And three out of how many?
so it's probably 20.
That's phenomenal. That is absolutely phenomenal. Um,
Anyway,
well,
not bragging, but
we're
it's
seeing, we have a break coming up here soon, but I have not confirmed this, but I'm absolutely convinced the same people that want to have universal health care also want to do away with football. We have a break. Call number is 800-313-9443. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 6th of November. We are going on a cruise. There are still cabins left. You can get the details at my website at thelibertyman.com. You can talk to our cruise director, Betsy Murphy, at 636-530-9502. Visiting Professor James McCanney. His website is linked to my links page at thelibertyman.com. That website is jmccsci.com. And Jim, tell people how they can listen to your two radio shows live and to the archives, if you would, please, sir.
That's John. Thursday evening, 6 p.m. Central Time from WWCR Nashville, Tennessee. The in the wintertime frequency, by the way, 5.935 megahertz. That's in vogue now. But also there's the web page, wwcr.com. They're streaming. And so that's the live show, the James McCanney Science Hour at the Crossroads. And also my paid cast is $3.95 per month, where you can also get good deals on my book packages and all of that information available on my webpage.
All right, thank you. Jim, about 4 weeks ago, one of our football team members died. I talked to our quarterback, and I asked him to do one last huddle. The widow agreed, and the quarterback led the team members down to the casket. The team members took a knee, and the quarterback led everybody in prayer. the friendships, the camaraderie developed in football are lifelong and don't go away. We got a caller and older. We got Jerry in Texas. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning, John and Jim. 2 points I wanted to bring out. You was talking about. Let me get out of the barn here. The credit cards and compound interest and what have you. Yesterday was election day. Here in the state of Texas, various and sundry propositions, I guess it was, amendments, laws, however you want to say it, was bonds, election for bonds. $3 billion here, $200 million there. On what I consider stupid stuff, they all passed. Who's going to pay for that? And the old mantra, build with today's dollars and pay back with tomorrow's dollars. Well, those tomorrow dollars are getting kind of thin. But anyway, I thought that kind of, that's the mentality that we're stuck with today. Now, main reason I called, what was it? The very first part of this month. We're still in front of like the 3rd or something. You can Google it. National Geographic had an article on it. They're coming out now, medical researchers, saying that measles will reduce and compromise your immune system to the point that you'll lose something like 60% of your immune system because of measles. Jim, John, we're late 60s, I don't know, maybe early 70s. Man, I should have been dead 50 years ago. And I had the big measles and little measles. I had chicken pox.
We all did, Jerry. We had chicken pox, measles, mumps, and what the parents would do if somebody got one of those is they'd bring all the kids over to play so they all got it. And they got it over with, because if you get those as an adult, then it's really bad. But also that immunity carries to the next generation and builds up an immunity.
Well, it was the last couple of years. My mother told me, she turned 90, by the way, at 28th of August. She said that some of my dad's family, he had 5 brothers and 6 sisters, as it even does, and 6 boys, 6 girls. But she said that some of my cousins had measles or chicken pox when I was small, and she deliberately took me over to catch the chicken pox. She was aggravated, disappointed I didn't get them. I got them later on, but she wanted me to get them and get them over with while I was still little.
Right. And that's the way it used
was our
to be.
Vaccination. Yeah.
Yeah. And, the problem this is a huge issue, and like John said, we're probably not going to cure it here, but it's by the way, that's one of the issues that they don't talk about with this Medicare for all. It's one of my main gripes, is when the politicians get a hold of it, they only talk about the cost, the financial cost. But the real issue is that the government wants to cancel all private insurance and force you into a government health program. That's what it's all about. And then they get to decide whether you're going to get treated or not, and with what kind of treatment. And if you oppose it, you're going to go off to a happy farm.
You are tuned
well, not only
we
that,
have a break. We have a break. We'll be right back.
Publicbroadcasting.org.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 6th of November. I was a guest with Doug Hagman Monday, and he talked about an article at my website. The article I wrote about the possible coming Second American Civil War. He urged everybody to download it and read it, and I think that would be a smart thing to do. We need healthy, productive Americans to keep America great, make America great. That's where the energy cleaner comes in. I use mine every night. I do. If you have arthritis pain, what are you waiting for? It's not going to fix itself. Get yourself an energy cleaner. You want to sleep as good as a small child every night like I do? Get yourself an energy cleaner. Details at my website at thelibertyman.com. We'll have Steve Whitman tomorrow giving his testimony about how the energy cleaner saved his life. Check out the energy cleaner, the mattress pads. Place your order using PayPal. You can call my toll-free order line 24 hours a day, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Visiting with Professor James McCanney, his website's linked to my links page at thelibertyman.com. And is Jerry still there? Jerry, you still with us?
Yeah, I think so. Did I go? No. Can you hear me okay?
Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, not to beat a good horse to death, but I probably mentioned this more than once on your show, John, and on other shows. We, the three of us, and the people, our age, growing up and going into the job market and everything, it was a big company that had a personnel department. Somewhere down the pike, I don't know when it was, all of a sudden, we're no longer personnel, we're human resource. And then when we get our age, where we're not real productive and making wages perhaps and paying adequate taxes, we become useless eaters. So what are they going to do with us if it does really get bad? Those that are dependent on social medicine and what have you to keep them tongue-in-cheek healthy. We'll be put out to pasture, like you say, Jim, shuffled over and left to just die. But, yeah, that's basically all I had. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for
sorting
calling,
out
Jerry.
all the background noise, but y'all have a good day.
Okay, thank you. Jim, any follow-up on Jerry's comments before we move on to our next caller?
No, I think we got a caller from Florida.
We do. We got John. Well, let's see. John in Texas first is the first next caller. Go ahead, John.
Hello, Professor McCanney. You mentioned the Declaration of Independence earlier in the program, talking about how they about people not being able to read it. What I would like, I could ask you a question about the document itself. It's there's a question about who actually wrote it. It has been attributed to Thomas Jefferson, largely because he said he did it, and that was early in about 1816 or so. There's a controversy about his authorship. It says that there are those that say that they're saying that they've examined the phraseology, the word choices, the writing style, the tone of the document, and they said it does not at all really match up with Thomas Jefferson's style of writing, and they think that the best candidate actually for who actually wrote it, at least the first draft of it, was Thomas Paine. You care to comment?
John, do you?
Well, I'm aware of the controversy, and it's a beautiful document as part of our history, and it's not an issue that I dwell on or particularly want to spend any time on. The fact that it exists, that it was signed by the founding fathers, is good enough for me. It's a nuance that I don't care to spend any time on myself. Anything else, John?
It's a diversion.
Right.
Like a lot of diversions.
Right.
Okay. And the implication would be that maybe it's not a true document or something like that, and it's not an issue.
Not that it's a true document or not, it's just who wrote it. And why would they conceal who actually wrote it? For a long time it was a state secret.
Well, they decided not to make that an issue. The part of the document was the words and who signed it. The author or authors, plural, really doesn't matter. What matters is that it exists. It was signed by the men who signed it, and it is part of our historical record. We're going to move on, John. We do thank you for your call. Next, we go to John in Florida. Good morning, John.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, sir. You're on the air.
Okay, Professor McKinney. I hate to bring this up again, but my stepdaughter on September 27th had ordered some filters, and we're in November, and she's not received them. She's not received the tracking number, anything. She emailed you. She said you emailed her back. She's in Palm Springs, Florida. Her name is Luisa Vargas. And we have not received the filters, and this is in November.
Okay, I will check into this. That's all I can tell you. I'm not at the warehouse, and so I'll check into that. In something in August should be certainly have been shipped by now. So
I'm hoping somebody else. I'm hoping somebody else isn't interfering with your orders. That's all.
Okay. Well, it'll be checked out, John, and it'll be resolved very quickly, I'm certain, and we do appreciate the call. Next, we go to Roger in Colorado. Good morning, Roger.
Yes, Mr. McKinney, I've emailed you about 3 times with no response. I'm interested in your wind turbine and the water out of the air system. We have an area where we're not allowed to use wells to water stock or horses or anything. And I think that I'm in the solar business, and I think that they can, I can group them together and put that in so that, but I don't know what the consumption rate at the different humidities and stuff is. And I wonder if somehow or another there could be something set on that, or what I need to do to. I don't know why I'm not getting the email out.
If you're mailing it to the email address at the on the web page, we're just behind. There's so many people writing in, and so we're trying to sort through what appear to be the most probable first installations. But we will get to yours.
I'll send you another one, and I'll put a wind turbine on the top of it, so maybe it'll show up a little quicker.
Just put wing in capital letters.
Try and get that information to me so we could get something going.
Right, Roger. Put wing, W-I-N-G, wing, and capital letters in the subject line.
Yeah. That's
will do.
Okay. Roger, thank you for the call. Appreciate it. Sounds like you're busy, Jim.
Well, yeah, John. I have not been able to clone myself, and things are going crazy. Let me put it that way. There's a lot of interest in the wing. It's going in many different directions in the background. It's at this point impossible for me to keep all the plates spinning at the same time. So, unfortunately, what I try and do is do the most important things from my perspective first. And like my paid casts are a couple weeks behind right now. Yeah, things like that. I mean, it's just really a lot going on, but it's all good. I mean, I can't complain that there's a lot of interest in my prime number stuff. There's a lot going on. If you look at the number of directions my work goes in, it's really multifaceted. And I wish I had more time to spend on some of my more esoteric topics like archaeology. But that's also, just I'm spread too thin. It's the only.
Sounds like you need a weekend seminar in time management, perhaps, Jim. I know people that do that. I know people that do that.
Yeah, I don't have time to have a weekend seminar. I mean, it's just literally so much going on, John, that I'm really overwhelmed.
Well, understood. We got our next caller is Simon in the Carolinas. Good morning, Simon.
Good morning, gentlemen. We had a couple of callers who are kind of diverting information, but I'd like to go ahead and put some facts out. I don't need a response because I think, Jim, you'll probably understand, or you'll probably recognize this. You too, John. And that is that in our history books, since you're talking about educational systems, the Revolutionary War and the Gettysburg Address have been taken out of the history books. And I'd also like to say that the signers, our founding fathers of the Declaration of Independence, every single one of them were hunted down, lost their property, hung, shot, lost their families. Not one of them ever survived. They were all completely broke by the time that they were all gone. Nobody ever talks about that. So I just thought I'd put those facts out and let you know that this country has been brutally destroyed by nothing other than the Jewish rat pack.
Okay, Simon. Well, thank you for your call, sir.
And the borders are still open.
Well, they are, and they need to be shut down.
Trump is a traitor or the Kool-Aid kid. That's all he is. He's a lying son of a bitch.
Okay. Thank you for your call, sir. Well, sometimes, Jim, when I say thank you for your call, the engineer doesn't hit the button immediately. But these people do sometimes get a few moments of airtime in there, and I do my best to not let that happen. Jimmy, one of our favorite topics you touched on briefly is archaeology, and I know that you solved the 70-year-old question about the Nazca Line. So prior to World War II, an aircraft flying over the Peruvian desert, it was not known these lines even existed. It wasn't until aircraft started flying over them on a regular basis during World War II that the pilots observed these massive lines on the Peruvian desert that looked like animals and various other things. And you've proven them, to my satisfaction, to be actually they're fractal antennas, haven't you?
Yeah, there's no question that that's what they are. You look at them and they are classic antenna shapes with the understanding, which means that an ancient entity, we don't know who they were, if they were, we have no idea. It's one of my things I talk about in my white paper on this. But thousands of years ago, literally, somebody understood fractal antennas, something that only were understood if you remember the transition between flip phones and the little flat phones that we have now. That's when fractal antennas were understood and put into use in the human, in modern human.
In the modern age.
In the modern age, yeah. And before that, they were not understood. Fractal antennas are a very recent discovery in antenna technology. And so that means that thousands of years ago, people not only understood it, but could build them. The idea is in a little teeny corner in your cell phone is your antenna. It doesn't have to be this big long thing that you pull out. But imagine something the size of these things, hundreds of feet long, in the middle of the desert, and in coordination as not only are they individually antennas, they are linked together. There are routes that link these things together into a massive antenna. And one of the issues with an antenna design like that is the antenna is the overall size of all its components. So we're talking about something that's an antenna that's hundreds of miles in diameter out on the Peruvian desert that could easily signal with very complicated protocol to other stars and send and receive.
And very likely, without a whole lot of trouble, it could once again do that, couldn't they?
Yeah. We don't know what some of the aspects of this were, but they're very clearly fractal antennas on a large scale. And these people lived over a long period of time, possibly hundreds of years. And so, once again, when the Spanish came, they asked around, and the people simply said they were there before us. And these were the people related to the Incas who had a lot of construction, rock construction, hundreds and hundreds of sites, very successful population. And they said that they were there before.
Right. Well, this old rock that we live on has been around a really long time, hasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the, of course, with education, going back to that, they teach that, this baloney about the cradle of civilization and man went out from there 7,000 years ago, and all of the races of man developed from that. It's so far from being possible. I mean, it's such a joke what they teach about the evolution of man. Absolutely, it's right out of just La La Land.
Well,
it couldn't possibly be true.
It's well known, and in fact, the souvenir shops in Kashmir sell trinkets in the souvenir shops commemorating the nuclear devices discharged there 12,000 years ago. It's actually fairly common knowledge that our ancestors could split the atom 12,000 years ago, Jim, which flies in the face of what's taught in schools for archaeology, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, kids come out of school with such a distorted view of the world. Once again, education it's a crime. It should be listed as a crime, and the teachers, I was talking about this on my education program. Education is set up to be easy for the teachers. It's everything is canned. You walk into a classroom, there's 1 hour, you're going to be out of there in an hour, and whether the kids learn anything or not is minimal. Making millions of kids sit behind a desk and listen to the same tripe over and over again for 12 years is a crime.
Right. Here's our last break. We got one last caller on hold. We'll be right back. More here on Wednesday, the 6th of November. Visiting Professor James McCanny, his website is linked to my links page. That website is jmccsci.com. Our last caller is Deborah in Kentucky. Good morning, Deborah.
Good morning. Gentlemen, my call relates to needing to find out from Mr. James McKinney how I can possibly get a replacement set of filters. I don't have a computer, and I need to know a direct fulfillment phone number or some information so that I could make this work. I'm past my second set of filters that are long past needing to be replaced, and I would much prefer to continue with the amazing quality that these are compared to others.
Okay, Jim.
John, can you get a phone number offline from this, or the producer here, and then I can call her back or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Deborah, we'll give your phone number to our engineer off air, and then I will make sure that Jim gets that. He'll see it as soon as it's typed up here.
I would appreciate it so much. Do you want me to give you a voicemail number and my direct number for your convenience, Mr. McKinney?
Just your direct number would be fine.
The direct number's fine.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so
Deborah.
much.
Okay, we appreciate it.
I appreciate.
Okay. Well, we have a massive outreach here, Jim, and obviously you have a lot of fans listening to the show that have worked with you over the years to get water filters and so forth. That's a good thing. Our outreach to these people is a good thing. Jim, we're down to the last 2 minutes here. What word do you want to get out this morning?
A couple of people have called in today about having trouble with getting a hold of me or something like that. Yeah, I apologize, but I don't think I'm very good at time management, and I do try and just live a normal life too. But that's something that is pretty much in the background. I'm trying to work through this. The wing generator things there's a lot of stuff ready to break open in that respect, which will offload me from doing a lot of this. So anyway, it's all I can say is we will catch up once. Pretty soon, I hopefully will have some staff to do a lot of this busy work, and then things will. I can get caught up on a lot of that, and then possibly get back to what I do best.
Okay.
And that is working on the design and engineering, or the prime number work, which is ongoing also. I still have 2 volumes of my prime number book to finalize and get out. So, yeah, to say the least, I got a lot going on.
You do, absolutely. And I assume you see Deborah's telephone number there on the screen.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay, fantastic. Well, Jim, thank you, sir. I don't want to be cut off by the music. We appreciate your being with us and look forward to having you back next Wednesday, sir.
Thanks, John. Take care.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we'll have a top of the hour break coming up here shortly. My friend Jeff Nyquist will be joining us. I am convinced that the people who are putting out this information that football is bad, that there's certainly part of a bigger agenda. We have a top. Did I get that right, Jeff?
Yes.
jrnyquist.blog. Okay. So, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
We had a short discourse last hour about football, and this may turn to a research project for both of us. But the last few years, there's been an increasing clamor from various national celebrities about the dangers of football, and I think there's a possibility that there's a hidden agenda there, and the same people who want to destroy our country by destroying our educational system to the point where recent high school graduates can't walk into the National Archives and read the U.S. Declaration of Independence. The same people are behind destroying the culture of football for high school students and college students. Do you have any thoughts on that, Jeff?
Well, of course, there's been a general attempt to make, everything easier and softer and more, quote-unquote, fair. So it's hard to distinguish between what is a provocation of the communists and what is a fallout from all the different changes in our culture that they've wrought. So I don't know. I don't know how you'd find out. I guess you'd have to go to school boards. Is it coming from school boards?
It would be like any other investigation. You'd have to conduct an investigation and be able to interview the people that are behind it if they would agree to interviews, and find out who they are and what's in their hearts, which is not easy, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I can see that in a general sense. For example, where my grandchildren are growing up in Washington State, there's a state law that compels the coach to issue a football uniform to any young man or, unfortunately, any young woman who wants to be on the varsity football team. He has to issue a uniform to them. And on the sidelines, you'll see about 100 students dressed out in uniforms, most of whom, 2/3 of whom, will never, ever set foot on the field during a game for very good reasons. So that may be part of it there, too. But that part of it is not trying to do away with football. That's just trying to marginalize what football really is. We got our first caller here, Jeff. We got Jeff in Massachusetts. Good morning, Jeff.
Thank you very much, John. John, I'll tell you what, I read your letter on the next Civil War. Absolutely brilliant letter, flawless. But I want to add some things to your letter, and if Jeff Nyquist read that letter on thelibertyman.com, please read it. It's brilliant. But here is the add-ons to this letter I read, which is, I've worked security for a little over 20 years, and I've worked at a variety of places. One of them is a gas plant. I've worked at a water treatment center, and I was in the hospital for a night. And here is the add-ons for the letter. The part of the front lines of the terror war, I believe, are going to be LNG plants, gas plants, and hospitals. Hospitals are going to be the front line of this next terror war. And I like your input on that, and Jeff Nyquist's input on that, because to me, I see it coming. And 2020 is not a sensationalistic figure. What do you think?
Well, the potential targets you mentioned are all legitimate targets for terrorist attacks, as well as our larger enemies, the Russians and Chinese. Anything that disrupts our society is a legitimate target. Anything that disrupts command and control is a legitimate target. Jeff, you got any response, sir?
Yeah, well, it is true that if you look at the plans, the Russians and probably the Chinese have, their surprise attack on the United States, which it's always about surprise, involves attacking at a time when Americans are divided and when there is confusion about who the enemy actually is. And so if you can cause a civil strife or even war here, you've got the perfect conditions to attack, because then nobody knows exactly who's attacking, okay? They'll say, oh, other Americans are attacking you.
Yes.
And they can mask the actual origin of the attack that way.
So true. So brilliant. Well, I will add this to the conversation, which is the methods I believe that could be used is just a simple, whether it's an oil plant or a gas plant or even an electric plant, it's just a simple drone. Fly an Amazon drone packed with explosives and hit critical parts of that infrastructure. You just shut down your whole plant. You're pretty much up the creek. In a hospital, people are going to have to go to the hospital. A prosthetic leg costs $50,000. I was told this by a person. You start bombing places and having people lose their limbs, people are going to go nuts. They're going to go the heck with the Constitution. Get rid of these people, whomever they are. You're going to have mass hysteria, and that's only like a couple places you hit. And John, you've seen war, so you know what I'm talking about. And I'm going to let you comment on the rest of this stuff because it's just too gruesome to get into.
Jeff, don't go away. I got a couple of questions. Okay.
What's that?
Now, you did security at a water treatment plant, correct?
Yes, I was a long time ago.
Okay. Were you armed or unarmed?
Unarmed. Which to answer your question? Yeah. I was unarmed.
Okay.
What?
Okay. Now, just hold on a moment.
Yes.
Two strong guys, one approaching from the front, appearing to be maybe disabled and needing help, the other sneak up behind you, could probably grab you and tie you up pretty easily, couldn't they?
Oh, obviously, even though I have...
Now, okay, let's move forward from there. And their four buddies went to the hardware store earlier in the day, and they've got sledgehammers, hacksaws, bolt cutters. They don't need explosives, Jeff. With hacksaws, sledgehammers and bolt cutters, they can destroy that water treatment plant in just a few minutes, can't they?
Well, yeah. It depends on what it is, but let me.
And that's true of all our infrastructure nationwide. You don't need explosives. You don't need guns. All you need are common hardware stored tools to destroy infrastructure. That's the point. A man in the hospital with a 5-pound sledgehammer in the heating and air conditioning section and in the electric control section can wipe out that hospital in less than 10 minutes with common hardware store items. You don't need guns. You don't need explosives. And
John,
Jeff, thank you.
John, you're so right about that. And
it's what we do in special forces. We learn how to destroy things. That's what Green Berets do. We break things and kill people. Thank you for your call, Jeff.
Oh, John, you're welcome. Have a good.
You're welcome. Appreciate it. And we got a call from the future here, Jeff. We got Alex in New Zealand, where it is in fact Thursday. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, John and Jeff. I would like to raise up that. Okay, I would like to raise up that last week on New Zealand television, the Communist Chinese ambassador was actually getting interviewed on New Zealand television in regards to the Hong Kong protest. The first thing she did was to blame that the U.S. orchestrated the protest. But what she didn't expect was that the news reporter to ask her back whether the Hong Kong protest was a Chinese communist orchestration.
And what did she say?
When she couldn't answer the question when the reporter asked her if the Hong Kong protest was orchestrated by the Chinese Communist Party. She just stayed completely silent on the question.
The question probably terrified her.
And the next thing I want to raise up is that the Hong Kong independence movement, including Joshua Wong, they were actually caught supporting the Catalonia independence movement.
For those of the listeners that don't know, the Catalonian independence movement is related to the Spanish Civil War in the following way. Catalonia was the last part of Republican Spain to hold out against Franco, and it was supported by the Soviet Union, by Moscow. And the Catalonian independence movement to this day is not only supported by the far left and the communists, but also by Russia. So for these Chinese Hong Kong independence movement people to be associated with the Catalonian independence movement in Spain is to show that they're part of a larger communist international network.
Right. And it may actually be a direct chain of command linkage between the two, not just a casual friendship.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Alex, before you get away, there's people that believe the Earth is flat, and right now it's Thursday where you are and 3:14 a.m. And it's daylight here where I am. How can that be, Alex? If the planet is flat, how can it be daylight where I am and the middle of the night where you are, sir?
I think it is impossible for the Earth to be flat.
Of course it is.
At the moment, it's completely dark in New Zealand.
Alex, we do appreciate your call. Anything else before you get away?
I've got one more thing before I let you go. Are you aware the Hong Kong Freedom and Democracy Bill has been held up in the Senate? And apparently, from what I've read, Mitch McConnell is not happy with it.
I'm not familiar with the legislation myself. Jeff, are you?
I read it. It's the key part of the legislation that's objectionable to me is that it gives a visa waiver for Chinese coming from Hong Kong, which would allow the unscreened people from China who we would have no idea who they were. They could be People's Liberation Army troops, in fact, that could come pouring in here by the tens of thousands. So we have to be careful about that. I don't know if that's the reason the bill's held up. I know that there's concerns among people in intelligence in Washington about it.
Okay. Real good. Alex, anything else?
That's all.
Okay.
Have a good day,
thank you,
John
Charlotte.
and Chief.
Appreciate the call. Don't be a stranger.
Thank you.
All right, you too, Alex.
It's interesting to see how people on the other side of the planet are paying attention to what goes on here in this country, as well as in their own neighborhood. And of course, Hong Kong and New Zealand are not that far away geographically compared to. There are thousands, probably 3,000 miles away from Hong Kong, but compared to the other side of the planet, they're relatively close. And New Zealand has pretty much shot themselves in the butt when it comes to being protected by the United States. They prohibit the United States Navy from making ports of call at the New Zealand ports. And I'm convinced that was part of the overall conspiracy to have New Zealand fall within the sphere of Communist China. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I think so. We remember in World War II that the Japanese Navy very quickly made it to the Solomon Islands, which is north of New Zealand and within cruising distance of the Japanese fleet. And New Zealand, if the Japanese had extended down past Guadalcanal, they would have been able to invade New Zealand. And in fact, anybody who has played realistic simulations of the war in the Pacific, occasionally New Zealand does get invaded by the Japanese in those games. So any island in an ocean where an enemy navy can approach is very vulnerable because the island is subject to naval attack. And the Chinese are precisely building up their navy and have already extended their influence into the islands that are further to the east than the Solomon Islands. The Chinese influence in Samoa has grown, Chinese influence in Fiji Islands. So the Chinese are interested in taking those islands over. And those islands are, by the way, not only part of New Zealand's lifeline, but they're part of Australia's lifeline. Its connection to the United States is through those islands.
Well, for decades, we heard people who wanted to poo-poo the threat of the People's Liberation Army to the United States by saying the following, and I heard this earlier this week: how would they get them here? How would they get the Chinese troops here? Well, they're quickly building the largest blue water navy, and I know, for example, that they've converted at least one, possibly more, but at least one supertanker has been converted to be a hospital ship. Of course, there's little difference between a hospital ship and a troop carrier in terms of the way they're set up. So if they could convert one supertanker into a hospital ship, they obviously could convert as many as they like into troop carriers, couldn't they, Jeff?
Oh yes, and they've already built 10 amphibious assault ships that could carry tanks and troops that have a 6,000-mile range and can deliver an entire division of troops to California. They're working on another 10 that are helicopter troop ships.
Amazing. Here's our break. We'll be right back.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Okay, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Jared Moore here on Wednesday, the 6th day of November. We're going on a cruise. It'll be a lot of fun. We still have cabins available. You can get the details at my website at thelibertyman.com, or you can call and contact our cruise director. This is Betsy Murphy, the wife of my very dear friend Ben Murphy, who's the chairman of a political action committee for Donald Trump, by the way. Betsy's telephone number, our cruise director, here it is, 636-530-9502. Visiting with Jeff Nyquist. His website's linked on my website at thelibertyman.com. That website is jrnyquist.blog. Jeff, I hope and I presume you're working on your next article, sir?
Well, there's an article on the site. I posted it yesterday afternoon.
Oh, okay, good.
It's a rather astonishing story, actually. It's about how on Friday a Brazilian congressman named Alexander Frota accused me, basically, of being sort of an eminence grise behind the scenes of Brazilian politics, that I was somehow charging all this money to Brazilian lawmakers. I was orchestrating a disinformation campaign. I was mobilizing digital militiamen to attack.
What in the world is a digital militiaman? I've never heard that term.
Well, it's a term that he kind of invented. I had never heard that term either. But supposedly, I've been cited often in Brazil's Chamber of Deputies, he claimed.
Really? You're famous?
Yes.
Can I get your autograph?
Yes, apparently so. Well, they're seeing me in all kinds of places, and I joked on Twitter that, they cloned me, and now I'm try to find me along with my pal Bigfoot, I kind of made a joke out of it, and of course, this particular congressman, Alexander Frota, was one of Brazil's most famous porn stars before he became a politician. So it's rather odd.
The whole thing is strange. We got a caller on hold. We got John in Tennessee. Good morning, John.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Jeff. Hope you're doing well. Jeff, I know a lot of times I sound combative. I'm really not. I agree with you that there is a communist threat, that there are certain individuals that are Muslims that want to see America go away and Americans die. Would you agree that, for the most part, people that either don't understand or refuse to believe your position, and this is a two-point question, is because they refuse to look at truth and process it properly?
Well, yeah, they're just not adequately informed.
Because
I think what John's referring to is critical thinking skills here, Jeff. I believe, John, would you be referring to the absence of critical thinking skills?
Didactic reasoning, yes. I mean, looking at facts and drawing conclusions with this tremendous computer that God gave us called the human brain. So, having said that, you're both investigators. John, I'm going to vary a little bit here. You made a comment to the guy in New Zealand. I'm not going to bring up that. How is it night over there and day over here? Here's a question I would like you to ponder. And first of all, I'd like to ask, if you haven't looked into it as an investigator, to answer a matter before hearing it, according to the Bible, is a shame and folly. So my question for you is, on a sunny day, in July when we look up and the sun is in the, in the eastern sky, high up near the 12 o'clock noon position, and I look to the west, and there, lo and behold, is the moon, but it's not full. It's crescent. If the moon is really reflecting the sun, why am I not seeing a full moon? How am I seeing a crescent, John? That's more important to me than how is it dark in New Zealand and sun shining in Tennessee. If you could answer that, I'd appreciate it.
Well, that's real simple. The Earth is partially blocking the surface of the moon.
Could it be? I mean, if the moon is, at the 11 o'clock position or the 5 o'clock position and the sun is shining across the planet, if it is a planet, why am I not seeing a full moon?
Well, I
it's
just
the
gave
problem
the answer.
of geometry. The problem of geometry is the sun is 93 million miles away from the moon, and the Earth is at that point is between the Earth and the moon to some extent. Not that the Earth is blocking the sun directly, but that you are seeing that from the perspective of the Earth, you can see the part of the moon that is lit by the sun and the part of the moon that is not seeing the sun, because you're seeing the moon at a different angle. That's why.
If you'll entertain one more thought, John, please. If we all believe the Bible, and the very word Genesis means beginnings, so the book of the beginnings outlines a putting of the sun and the moon inside the firmament. And the Bible talks about God drew a circle in the face of the deep and placed a firmament in the midst of the waters. How do we explain that?
Well, I'm not seeking an
It also
explanation
says
for
in
that
the book
myself.
of Isaiah. It also says in the book of Isaiah that the earth that the Lord sitteth upon the circle of the earth. So how do you explain that?
On the circle,
Okay.
but a circle
We have a
is
break,
not a
gentlemen.
ball.
We have a break. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 6th day of November. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. We had a caller earlier that mentioned the article I wrote. It's right there near the top of my homepage, The Possible Coming Second American Civil War. It's an article I think is worthy of your time to read that. Right next to that is the Daily Intelligence Briefing, put together every day by a friend of mine, former counterintelligence agent. Dozens of articles published every day from all around the planet. If you want to stay up to date on geopolitical matters, that's a great place to do it. And, of course, the Energy Cleaner. We all have issues. Some have issues with sleep. Some have issues with pain. Others arthritis. The Energy Cleaner will help all those things, help you have a better life, more energy, the ability to do things that you want to do. Check out the Energy Cleaner and the mattress pads that go with it at my website at thelibertyman.com. We're going to have Steve Whitman on tomorrow talking about how the Energy Cleaner literally saved his life. Literally. It'll be a great interview. We'll try to get him on 3 or 4 times a year. And, of course, I have a toll-free order that you can order the Energy Cleaner and mattress pads. It's 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. You have a question or comment here at Republic Broadcasting, give us a call at 800-313-9443. John, did you have more comments, sir?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say, John, I really appreciate you letting me talk about this. You're an honorable man. I don't question that for a moment. And to have a conversation like this is difficult because I was 60 years old when this came. Look, here's the important thing to realize. Either the entire book is true, and literally the foundation rests on the book of Genesis. The entire Bible is on it. And Genesis talks about a circle in the face of the deep. Jeff, you mentioned God sits on the circle of the earth. Absolutely. But a ball is a sphere. A circle is a circle. And if you'll go to Genesis 1, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth in Hebrew from right to left, and calculate the number in Hebrew gematria, it comes out to 3.1416, which is pi, which is used to determine the circumference of a circle, not a sphere. It's difficult. But even David in the Psalms talked about the waters above the earth and the waters beneath the earth. And that was after the flood. So when my kids asked me as a child, why is the sky blue? I uttered the same nonsense that I was taught. Well, your eye sees the color blue more easily, and the sun's reflecting through the ionosphere, and you see blue. If my grandchildren ask me, Papa, why is the sky blue? I'm going to look up and say, because there's water up there, son. I mean, it is absolutely biblical. And why would they lie? Well, maybe to reduce man to the size of a gnat on the back end of a boar hog and put us in a vacuum. And you know, Jeff and John, you're both smart men. The greater pressure always goes to the lesser. If there's nothing holding our atmosphere in, if there's not a barrier, and we're in a vacuum of space, you and I wouldn't be able to breathe right now. We are in God's environment. We are the glory of His creation. He's looking down on us, and the Bible says He put the firmament above us as a tent to dwell in. We're being lied to. And with that, thank you again, John.
Okay,
I'll be listening.
Thanks for the call. Okay, we appreciate it. Okay, well, I'm not sure what those comments have to do with the international communist conspiracy, but they are what they are. Jeff, doing a segue here, the new iteration of going after President Trump, of course, has to do with a big nothing burger, a great conversation that our president had with the president of the Ukraine, a conversation that was good and proper, completely within the realm of what the President of the United States is supposed to be doing under his oath of office, which is looking out for our interests. How long do you think it's going to take for this current paradigm of the going after President Trump to explode and be done away with, Jeff?
It's going to be a while. I think that they're putting such pressure on people to conform to it that it's going to be very difficult for it to be dismissed very quickly. They've got to keep this impeachment inquiry thing alive, and that means that they're going to be threatening people, slandering people. They're going to be trying to get all the facts to align their way, and anybody, God help anybody that gets in their way. The media in this country is enormously powerful.
I'm guessing March or April for this to be finished. I might be completely wrong. There's nothing there. The transcript's been released. In fact, the president at a rally, the people standing by him all had T-shirts on that said, "Read the transcript." The only evidence there is the transcript, and the evidence demonstrates that there was nothing inappropriate at all. So. I think it's reasonable, in my belief, that by February or March timeframe, this thing will be done away with, and they'll come up with something else. They have to, and you're right, they have to keep something up to attempt to discredit the president. It will be obvious by the end of January who will be running on the Democratic ticket. I think it's going to be Hillary Clinton, quite frankly, because by the end of January, the candidate has to be declared so they can be raising the hundreds of millions of dollars necessary to be successful, which Hillary won't be. I think it'll be a hoot. I think President Trump held back from going after Hillary the first time. I don't believe he's going to hold back at all this time. What do you think?
Well, if she's the candidate, they're going to have massive problems because there's going to be a huge amount of resentment from all the other candidates and from those people that have worked hard for those other candidates. And you got to remember that the primary process involves a lot of activists, and their disappointment will not just turn into, okay, we'll support the other guy. Their disappointment will turn into, oh no, not again. She's ruining everything, and they're going to blame her and come after her. They're going to be very angry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, they still haven't resolved the thing where she stole. She played unfair in the primary process against Bernie Sanders in 2016.
Right, absolutely. Well, another quick segue here. I may be posting, it's unclear, I'm talking to the chairman of the PAC that I'm working with. We may be posting a notice on my website and talking about a training session for Donald Trump activists from Southern Illinois and Eastern Missouri to get training to act independently of any higher authority at the local level, at the community level, and the county level to support President Trump. I may or may not get the word to promote this event, but if I do, of course, I will be doing that, and we'll be bringing in the kind of activists you're talking about to support the president and help him get reelected in slightly less than a year. The election will be a year from yesterday, won't it, Jeff?
Yeah, we're right there. We're about at the year mark. We are.
Yeah. And your analysis is correct. We've had the administrative person in charge of the Democratic National Committee, that black female, I forget her name, but she admitted in his public record that what Hillary did to Bernie Sanders was unethical and possibly illegal. I don't know about illegal, but definitely unethical to steal the nomination away from him. And there's a lot of people still upset about that, and they're not going to forget, are they?
No, well, what she did was the Democratic National Committee was short of money, and she loaned them the money. And then she was able then to impose on them because they owed her. And that gave her advantages in the selection of delegates and other processes in the primary campaign last time round. And this was part of the scandal that erupted over it. It may be why Seth Rich, who I speculate, I really strongly suspect that Seth Rich is the one that stole the emails off the DNC servers, and maybe why he was killed after doing that. A pretty controversial thing, and why have they got Sorry,
there's been no
and why Julian Assange?
Right. What about Julian Assange?
Go ahead.
There's been no resolution.
Why Julian Assange is
right?
Yeah, why Julian Assange has been is not able. Why they went after him? Why the Russians dumped him out of the Ecuadorian embassy? Because the Russians were meeting with the Ecuadorians, and what were the meetings about? Well, then the Ecuadorians basically handed Julian Assange over after years of having him in their embassy in London. So it's kind of intriguing to me.
It is. We have a caller on hold here. We got Jerry in Texas. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning, Jeff and John again. I wanted to mention I've been talking to a couple of the local politicians, JP and what have you. I don't know if my voice got passed down the pike or not, but our voting machines, if you will, computer, has totally changed. You'd be glad to hear this, John. You may have it there in Missouri. When you vote, you get a card, and you put it in the machine, you vote, and when you put a cash ballot, it prints out your what you have voted for, and you take it over and you put it in another machine. It is scanned and put in a box. So we have an electronic and a paper ballot here in Texas, or at least in Lampasas County, and there's I guess statewide, because I heard something about Houston, Harris County. They were the results wasn't cranking in as fast as it has been in the past because of certain steps and procedures. But the only I've got two caveats with that. When you review what you cast, it gives you the number of where it's a proposition or what and how you voted, but it doesn't remind you of what you've actually voted for. A description, and I didn't get a copy for myself. But maybe we're going in the right direction here in Texas so far as maybe controlling some voter fraud. I thought you and Jeff might find that interesting.
I got a question, Jerry. I got a question for you. The paper ballot, are the paper ballots counted at the precinct? Do you know, sir?
Okay. When you cast your ballot on the computer, the machine, it goes to a data bank, a server, I guess, somewhere, is the way they explained it to me. Then you take it over and you put it in another scanner. It goes into a ballot box, and it's counted there electronically. And you've got to put that paper ballot in there, or what you casted at the machine does not count. So I don't know if it's actually counted there at the precinct or if it goes to the county clerk's office. But I feel like we're going in the right direction. At least we're getting a hard copy for whatever that may be worth.
Okay.
But anyway, I just thought I'd pass that tidbit on, and I'll get out of here and let you get back to your regularly scheduled program. Thanks, John.
Appreciate it. Well, a big concern, Jeff, for the election a year away is that it be free and fair, that we don't have illegal aliens voting, we don't have people voting more than once, and so forth. And I know that there's been some efforts to clean up the voter registration rolls and to make it more of a free and fair process. What are your thoughts on that, sir?
Well, it is. We have these voting machines out of Venezuela that were being pushed on us, and of course, these voting machines were invented in order for Chavez to commit fraud in his elections, and they were bringing those same voting machines into Brazil to try to change the election in Brazil. So before Bolsonaro was elected. So we do have to be careful because the left, they don't regard the laws or democratic process as being sacred in any way, and they will cheat if they can. And they will cheat in this exact same way, because if you can flip the vote, which, some years ago I interviewed Alessandra Peña-Esclusa, who ran against Chavez in the election, I think it was in 2003 or 4, and he described this process to me, where the percentage of vote he got, because he believed he won the election, was the percentage of vote that Chavez got. The computer just flipped the numbers. So instead of 60-40 one way, it went the other way.
Right. Well, I've told this story before, but it bears mentioning again. When I gave a presentation when I was in Manila at the home of the former president of the Bank of the Philippines, and one of the guests there, a medical doctor, he approached me and told me how proud he was that the Philippines were getting electronic voting machines. And I said, Doc, you really don't want to do that. What you want are paper ballots counted at the precinct. That's the only way to have a fair and free election. There's other parts to this, but that's a critical part, is to have paper ballots counted at the precinct. Other parts include, of course, proper voter registration, purging the rolls of people who've moved away or died, making sure there's identification of the voters as they walk in the door. All these things combine to have a proper, free, and fair election, don't they, Jeff?
Yeah, you need all kinds of safeguards. And, of course, the biggest problem in our country is that we have a lot of voter rolls that have illegal aliens and dead people on them. And, of course, dead people and, illegal aliens are not legally entitled to vote. And who is casting those votes on their behalf? They're on a voter roll. Some agent of one of the candidates or one of the parties can come in and cast multiple votes, can come in impersonating one person, come in later impersonating another. And we know this practice goes on. It's gone on in Chicago for decades.
It does. We have a break coming up. We got a caller here. We got Cooper in Washington. Good morning, Cooper.
Good morning, John.
Cooper, hold on.
Are you aware
Cooper, hold on. Cooper, hold on. We have a break. We'll be right back.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 6th of November, visiting with Jeff Nyquist. His website's jrnyquist.blog. Cooper, you're our last call, sir. What's on your mind?
Yeah, are you both aware of this article was on Dave Hodges' website about these Chinese forces in British Columbia working in conjunction with FEMA and Trudeau to move into these two states here in Oregon?
I try to stay up on Dave's work, and I'm not familiar with that specific article. How about you, Jeff?
No, I'm not familiar with it.
Well, it was there 2 or 3 days ago. I saw it, and I think it was still there, but I don't know right now if it's been scrubbed or not. But you might, since you know him, you might want to talk to him about it.
Well, I talk to Dave several times a year, and I'm past due to get in touch with him. That's the part of the world you're in, of course, up in Washington State there, isn't it, Cooper?
Yeah, and I can tell you, if you can get your family out of here, the sooner the better.
Well, I'm working on it. It's not easy, Cooper. You know, between employment, owning a home, and everything, it's not easy. Okay,
yeah,
are you getting out yourself, Cooper? Are you getting out yourself?
Yeah, as soon as I can.
Well, good for you.
So,
good for you.
Okay, I'm low on minutes. I got to go.
Okay, thank you. I follow Dave Hodges' work just like I follow yours, Jeff. And Dave has some excellent sources, and he's been doing a really great job reporting on the potential Red Dawn invasion of our country. And I think you might want to check out his stuff occasionally yourself there, Jeff.
So he has a website.
It is. He's a talk show host, and his website is thecommonsenseshow.com. thecommonsenseshow.com. He's a great guy. He has some great sources, does some good reporting, and I think it's worth checking him out. I really do. Down in the last 2 minutes here, Jeff, what do you want to tell these folks before you get away for the week?
Oh, gosh. Well, you got to pay attention to the news. You've got to follow what's going on. You've got to know, I think that the primary thing is to know who your enemy is. And the enemy is the communists. They're like a new religion, the socialists, the communists, the far left. They all have a similar beliefs. They work together. They believe that capitalism is bad. They believe that the founding fathers were bad guys. They accept all of this political correctness, bathrooms for all 56 genders, I guess, or whatever confusing solution to that they have. they believe that human nature is malleable, and they're intent on building a new man, a new kind of man. They have all kinds of strange ideas for educating your children. And, we haven't really paid attention to their takeover of education in the country and what's been poured into the heads of young people. And all of this needs to be remedied, and there's not enough people who are knowledgeable enough anymore to combat it because, basically the left are fanatical.
They are.
And they're at it all the time.
They're at 24/7. Jeff, thank you very much. Have you back next Wednesday.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it for today. Get medical supplies, energy, cleaning, essential oils now while you can. You'll find them, Commission.